started last corrections saying last corrections in March, and a lot of you pointed out when you saw it, it was actually April 1st. Gotcha. Brontosaurus. So this is interesting. I said dinosaurs. I was talking about dinosaurs. Said Brontosaurus. Said pterodactyl. A lot of feedback from those of you in the know re-dinosaurs. Brontosaurus, it's Apatosaurus, I guess, is the correct name for what when we see a Brontosaurus, it's actually an Apatosaurus. But then in 2015, they did say Brontosaurus was okay. So I think I'm in the clear. Pterodactyls also are not dinosaurs, they're pterosaurs. I feel like in 2015, when they were doing all this reclassification, though, they might have said about pterodactyls, the scientists could have gotten together and said, do we need the P? Like, who are we trying to impress? We had a sketch with a crossbow this week, and we mentioned that it shot an arrow. Crossbows do not shoot arrows. They shoot bolts or quarrels. And it was very surprising that we had an error because that was a sketch that our writer Ben Warheit wrote. It's very uncommon for there to be an error in his sketches. He has a nickname in the writer's room, Kid Details. Well, I mean, the worst of the corrections are the ones that, recur. And once again, I said less when I should have said fewer. And I gotta say, this is the heartbreaking thing. I'm gonna play, it was in corrections last week, and I'm gonna play it for you. Watch in real time as I catch myself, and I'm so worried I'm doing it wrong, I correct myself incorrectly. I get it wrong. Watch, here it is last week, me saying it wrong. I also was told I did 2 less Guess Who's Backs. I mean, the fact that you've told me so many times that in the moment I get it wrong again, I think really proves that this whole endeavor is folly. I was talking about Without Me, the classic Eminem track, and I fell into the jackal trap. I jackaled the lyrics of that song a little bit, about the fact that I've always found it confusing that the song starts, guess who's back, back again, Shady's back, tell a friend, guess who's back, guess who's back, guess who's back. And I'm saying, why do you keep asking us who's back? To guess who's back, no less, when you told us. And then people said that you're not listening to tell a friend. Those are then the friends passing on, guess who's back? And I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed I got it wrong, and I'm ashamed because I think the reason I did that, the reason I was nitpicky, is I hold a grudge, a small grudge with Eminem. I am a huge fan of Eminem, to the point that I wrote him a couple of letters. Never heard back. 6 months I waited. He got him. I wrote the address perfect. I don't want to defend Eminem's titular character, Stan, but I will say, at least he took the time to air his grievances via letter, unlike you, who just type it into a comment section. Be so nice. One of you take the time to write a nice letter. You're just firing it off, often with worse grammar than the grammar you claim I'm using. Unpopular opinion, Stan is the best of the epistolary raps. I will say, I can't believe I'm going to do this right around, turn around, and criticize another Eminem lyric choice. But in the end, the last verse of Stan, so are we to expect, so Eminem's writing the letter to Stan, and then we hear a pencil scratching. In real time, he figures out this is the Stan he just saw on the news. And he writes, oh, wait, that was you, damn. So in the Eminem Rap-O-Matic universe is the idea that he, at Stan's house, There's an unopened letter that Eminem finished, damn, and then signed. These are the answers I'm looking for. We said only a lunatic would drink Diet Dr. Pepper, and two things we got in the comments section this week are dinosaur experts and Diet Dr. Pepper drinkers. Because a lot of you said it's a wonderful drink and no hard feelings. I do want to prove that was just a joke and we did not mean any. We were, it was in reference to Sarah Palin, and we, every time Sarah Palin comes up in the news, it makes me reflect on a very special time for me at SNL. Shoemaker and I were there, 2008. It was a really cool time to be there, really cool group of cast and writers. And I wrote a sketch for Amy and Tina where they played Sarah Palin and Hillary Clinton. But as with all political sketches at the time, we were always looking for other people to pitch jokes. And if there's a most famous line in that sketch, it is, "I can see Russia from my house." And I did not. Shoemaker was the one who pitched it. I remember like it was yesterday. We were sitting with the update group and Shoemaker said he pitched that line. And then I wrote it. I wrote it down right away. So I wrote it. He said it, I wrote it. But that is, it does speak to, for as irascible and unpleasant he is to be around, Shoemaker is a great producer because he makes everything a little bit better, and that's a perfect example because that was the best line in the sketch and it came from Shoemaker. He's been dining out on it, though. Not a day goes by. And the most embarrassing thing is he still pitches versions of it all the time. Like, it was perfect for that. But like yesterday, we're writing a closer look about Matt Gaetz, and Shoemaker's just lying on a couch still. I think he's fine, but he's like, oh, my hip, I need the whole couch. So like other writers are standing, and he goes, what if Matt Gaetz says, you know what I can see from my house? Russia. What? Just the worst joke. Someone told me a martini with vodka is called a Gibson. That's incorrect, not to correct a jackal. It's a Gibson is a martini with a pickled onion. It's the nighttime drink of Diet Dr. Pepper drinkers. I mentioned the film The Ice Storm, I think this week. And a wonderful film directed by Ang Lee, an incredible cast. And one member of the cast I left out was Elijah Wood, who, as always, in everything, was so great in that. And a lot of people accused me even of leaving him out because he's also in the Lord of the Rings films. And obviously I have a complicated relationship with those films. The complication is I have stuff to do, so when I watch a movie, it's like, pick up the pace. There's a life outside this. But that's not why I left him out. All right, so I'm gonna give a spoiler to The Ice Storm. So if you haven't seen it, pause it, watch it now, or maybe just skip ahead, let's say 2 minutes. Elijah Wood's character dies in The Ice Storm, and that's fascinating because he plays Frodo, right? Makes it through a trilogy and then one more movie as Frodo, lives. And that's the problem. There's just no stakes in Lord of the Rings. Like, to make it through Middle-earth, but not New Canaan, Connecticut. It's like, nobody dies in Lord of the Rings, right? I know I'm gonna hear it. I mean, Gandalf does, but then he, like, comes right back as, like, Gandalf the White. Am I supposed to be set? He just came back with a different shirt. It's like coming home, Dad's dead. What? No, oh, you got a new sweater. I mean, I guess I was sad when Smeagol died. No, you weren't. Oh, the letters don't turn on Wheel of Fortune anymore. They're screens. I should have known that, but I haven't been homesick for a while. I think we have our winning mug. We got to our final two, and I think they match up well. We could have gone with these two, but I think these are our two mugs, right? We got this on one side, Late Night with Correction Jackals, and then we have that jackal at a computer. So I think we're going to try to get this for sale at the store. Hopefully you all. And also, Tara told me that when we first showed this, a lot of you thought it looked more like a hyena than a jackal. And I like that it makes you unhappy. Asterisk. I said it wrong last week. And the way I pronounced it definitely was incorrect. There's this thing where you accuse me of doing something on purpose. It was not on purpose. It wasn't to set up some bit. I just said asterisk wrong. I just flubbed it. I pronounced it asta. Astley Rick. I mentioned my book, which I guess at this point I'm bragging about a little bit. First children's book ever to have a bear and a rabbit. A lot of people keep saying that's wrong. And somebody sent me this and said, what about this? This is from a movie, bro. It's not from a book. Then I do a Weekend Today show with Willie Geist, our friend Willie Geist. And they have great researchers. And I'm watching, and look at this. Can you guys read that? I'm Not Scared, You're Scared is first children's book. I mean, I just assumed, because it seems like such an obvious idea. But I mean, I guess those are the best ideas are, right? You hear them and you're like, oh, that's quite an honor. I have been reading reviews of the book, and mostly positive, but you go on Goodreads, and someone gave it 3 stars out of 5 and said it was cute but wordy. And I get it. Not all parents want their kids to learn all the words. There's twists, though. Like this book, there's a story. Like it's wordy because there are things that happen. There's more plot, I think, than you would find in a normal kid's book, and I'm happy about it. The bear learns to confront fear, and you find out at the end that the whole time the rabbit has been Russian-born German heiress Anna Delvey. And I think the best moment in the book is when she says to Bear, "Do you know who I am?" I've been trying to get my Anna Delvey impression into the show, and I feel like the window's closing, and I didn't ever want it to seem forced, and I thought that was pretty organic. I'll get your money, Bear. The European banks are closed. We have another... we have another E.B. White letter to share. Another E.B. White letter. This is really exciting. Also, I heard from a lot of archivists, that I did a lot wrong last week when I took out the letter. You're supposed to use cotton gloves, if any gloves at all. They say it's maybe better not to use gloves. You just have to have clean, sterilized hands because you actually want the tactile feeling with an old letter to make sure. Sometimes with your gloves, you maybe be a little rough with it. So clean, sterilized hands, and then Don't use tweezers, because that could damage the paper. Certainly don't use tweezers on the gloves, because that could put a hole in them. Don't blow in the gloves, because that gets that puts the germs inside. I did a lot wrong. But we keep hearing from this, the little girl Kay, who wrote the original letter to E.B. White, saying she didn't like the ending, and then he wrote back to her and said that he did like the ending. And her son has reached out very kindly and shared these letters with us. And so this is a trip. I believe the original letters were 1953. So now it's 13 years later. It's 1966. And Kay Berthold, who is now 13 years older, she reads an article in the New York Times, this is real, about, and by the way, when I say this is real, everything's real. It's a tick. So there was an article in the New York Times about how librarians had said Stuart Little was bad for children. And so he sent us again, this is a copy of the letter that his mom, Kay Berthold, wrote in 1966. And basically, I was very interested to read your article about Stuart Little in the Sunday New York Times on March 6, 1966, entitled, "Librarian Said It Was Bad for Children." I was one of those children who expressed dislike for the book's ending. When I read Stuart Little, about age 10, I loved it, and yet was troubled by the ending. You answered my letter, saying that it was important, not that Stuart found Margot, but that he was headed in the right direction. Now, 13 years later, I am a Peace Corps volunteer in Uruguay. Stuart Little is still one of my favorite books, but more important is the letter you sent me. As a child, I was thrilled. Now I say thank you. So that is the letter that his mom sent to Stuart Little. And once again, not to Stuart Little, to E.B. White, excuse me. Once again, E.B. White, what a lovely man who writes back. So here's the letter, see on New Yorker letterhead. And it says, "Dear Miss Berthold, it was very good of you to write, and I'm glad the Times piece interested you. I still receive letters of complaint from children about the book's ending, and I'm sure I always will. So it was an extra pleasure to have your retrospective report. From your address, I should say, you were headed in the right direction. I hope the going isn't too rough and that the rewards are great, along with about 180 million others. I send thanks and good wishes. Sincerely, E.B. White." And it made me feel bad because obviously, we've had some laughs at the expense of Mr. White, who wrote these beautiful children's books. And the fact that he would write back to her twice is really special, 13 years later. But then I wanted to get the original, right? So I call my friends at the Cornell University Library, and they're like, "That's not a real letter." They said, this isn't real. And they go, "But we have the real response." So got it right here. And cotton gloves. Get it right this time because I heard from my friends. But then, do you remember what I said? We don't wear gloves because we want the tactile feeling of no gloves. So we take them off. And then we sterilize our hands with, I guess, some sort of alcohol. This will work. There we go. Go. Should do it. And now, this is the actual letter from E.B. White. Okay. See, this is very clearly, because it has the letterhead, and there's some fire damage, which means it's old. And it's, you can also tell it's been in some tea. So it says, Dear Miss Berthold, it was very good of you to write, and I'm glad the Times piece interested you. I still receive letters of complaint from children about the book's ending, so it starts the same. One particularly bothersome girl wrote me in 1953 to say, I didn't like the ending because I don't know if he's going to get there or not. Come to think of it, her name was It Was You. Damn. I want to clear one last thing up. I talked about Jimmy Riley last week. who I asked Shoemaker, I said, what is his title? And I was told head carpenter, which is not what Jimmy's ever told me. But I guess the show wouldn't put head mother in charge in the credits. And I joked about how you can't run afoul of Jimmy or the Riley family because they're this secret cabal that, you know, run 30 Rock and pull the levers of Powell. Look, I was joking. Okay, this is my show. Okay, for all the jokes about Shoemaker is in charge or, you know, this person is in charge, I'm in charge, okay? I run the ship here. I'm not afraid of the Riley family. Well, can they do that though? Can anybody else do it? But isn't that Kathleen? Hello? Well, I was kidding. Yeah, but we're just in the middle of it, and it's. No, no, I didn't even think you were here today. No, it's just a joke. I don't. Okay. Well, can you turn him back on? Well, I am gonna think about what I did. You want me to take the whole hiatus? No. The whole thing? All right.